Welcome to episode 13 of Lizzie's Bedtime Stories. My reader, my storyteller, is Jove Belle, who's been on the show many times. I can't believe you keep coming back. I'm surprised you're like, you're crazy. I don't want to be on your show.
I'm so sorry. I almost talked over the top of you. Now all I can do is laugh. Hi. How you doing, Liz?
Hey, how you doing?
I like your show. I like you. Aww. Thank you for having me.
You're awesome.
All right.
Alrighty, so we're here for a reason, apparently. I don't know what it is, but I think it'll...
I'm so confused. Okay.
Something, it'll jog my memory. I think we're supposed to be doing something here.
Yes.
We're going to be doing a reading from your up-and-coming next novel. So will you give us the snappy title and tell us a little bit about it?
It is a snappy title. It's called Love and Devotion. And it is about this young woman she's in like her mid to late 20s, and she's having an affair with one of her mom's good friends. So the woman is old enough to be her mother, and they're having an affair, and it's all very scandalous in small town Texas. And the book is about her realizing that she wants more from her life, and she deserves more in terms of love. So she's learning the definition, what love and devotion truly means, and how that it varies from person to person. Mm-hmm. So that's what it's about.
Sweet.
Is that good? You've read it. You tell me.
Yes, I have. I have read it, and one of the things that I dig is watching her fumble. But I think the biggest tell is sometimes the best thing in your life is right in front of you, and you don't even realize it.
Yeah.
So
with the best friend, she just doesn't get it.
Exactly. So the best person, the person who knows her and loves her and wants to be a part of her life, is right in front of her, and she doesn't notice. She notices like the flashy, Mrs. Robinson action going on.
Yeah, she's got a thing for the Texas beauty queen. That's what she's doing.
Lonnie is her name, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Lonnie is the lover.
Yes.
And the best friend's name is Emma, and the main character's name is Casey.
Yes. So Casey is easily distracted by bright, shiny bauble.
Yes, or bright, shiny boobies, whichever.
Boobies. Yes. I was going for a metaphor or simile or one of those things. But the thing is, like, wait, say that again?
I lose track of metaphors when I start thinking about boobies.
Boobies are very distracting, and they may not be shiny unless covered in oil or sweat, but they are distracting. So I think for Casey, the bright and shiny bauble is Lonnie and all of her wiles and her ability to entice her, and as an older woman, she knows the game and drags her around by her belt buckle, so to speak.
Yeah, I think initially the relationship, it's all about fun because they're having an affair for like a year, right? So initially it's all just fun, like, wow, I can't believe I get to do this. But then there's that whole, if you really loved me, we wouldn't be doing this kind of experience. And then she realizes, wait, you don't actually even like me. You just want to fuck me. Can I say fuck on your show?
Oh,
loud?
Yes. say, it made me think of the 80s. Sing it loud, sing it clear. Fuck!
You're singing.
You can listen as well as you hear. Fuck!
There you go.
There you go. It's the remix. It's the remix.
Nice. Lesbian remix.
Lesbian remix with the F-bomb. So, I really dig the book. I recommend people, go pick it up because, there's the sneakiness. I did not realize that the best friend was going to be the prize. And the problem that with a lot of people, like dyslexic, crazy women like myself, ooh, shiny bauble. Like, it's easy to be distracted by the glamorous, the enticing, and totally miss the boat on, what a true, strong, happy, healthy relationship could be.
Yeah, but it doesn't, like, once you see it happening, I don't think it's like this hidden staircase. I think it makes sense once, Casey actually realizes what's going on. I think it makes perfect sense.
Absolutely.
But I don't know.
And that's when she, and the thing is, Casey, what I dig about her is she's a good girl. Even though she's doing a bad thing, having an affair is a bad thing. She's monogamous to her bad thing.
She is. She tries so hard to be nice. She just is bad at it.
But I mean, like, she's not a player. This is not a young woman who likes dipping her finger in every honey well. Like, she's just kind of fascinated, addicted to this interaction. And so the reading that you're going to do is an excerpt very early in the book. Is it the first chapter or close to the first chapter?
It's in the first chapter.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's the maybe second scene, first chapter.
Okay.
Not quite. Yeah, somewhere in there.
All right.
It's somewhere close to the front.
Yes, and we're in a church, which is where all evil and naughty thoughts go to vacation.
Yeah, they're in a church in Texas. So yeah, the whole Texas thing adds a whole extra layer of fun to the perversion of lesbianism.
Yeah, and of course, for some reason, when you say Texas, I was immediately thinking deep in the heart of Texas.
We're just singing today, aren't we?
I am singing awfully. And
did you see that I've been posting my playlist for this book on the blog?
Yes, I have. There's a lot of pink action there.
Well, for this, there's not, though.
Oh.
I love Pink. Like, you don't even understand how much Pink I listen to. That's not even...
I thought I saw on Spotify that you had been listening to her.
Oh, my God. On and on and on. Because who doesn't love Pink? And who doesn't love Spotify? The two go together. But on my website, I'm putting together, like, the playlist for this book. Like, what is KC listening to?
Okay.
And it's all, like, old school country. Like, I don't even know where. It's all, like, like Patsy Cline and...
Crazy.
Martina McBride, just crazy old stuff.
So, I'm ready for you to lay it on me. I want to hear this scene.
Oh, wait, but can I talk about one more thing first?
Oh, totally. Go for it.
So, my editor is Shelley Thrasher. Have you talked to her or interviewed her yet? Because if you haven't, you should.
I think I've actually read something of hers. Does she have something nominated this year for GCLS?
She does. Yeah, she does. It's called The Storm.
Yes, it's fully read. That's fantastic.
Yeah, she's been editing forever and ever and ever, and that's her first release. But here's my Shelley Thrasher thing. Shelley lives in a small town in East Texas, and this book is set in a small town in East Texas. So talk about intimidating. Like, I went to Texas once when I was like 18 and was fascinated by the fact that Dallas doesn't have an open container law, or didn't at that time. Mm-hmm. Like, that was my Texas experience, so I don't have a lot of it. And it was a little intimidating. I'm going to send this book to an editor who is fastidious and lives where it's set, so I better get it right. So that was fun. I got a lot of, really? Do you know where this is set kind of notes?
Oh, Lord.
So
but you know what? No matter how painful, that's the perfect person to do it for, because if she's on board with you, then you're in a good place.
Well, I specifically got a beta reader who lives in Texas, just for that, in East Texas, just for that, so I could minimize that experience. But yes. She still caught me. She still did. Because, I tend to think that lesbians should be loving and affectionate no matter where they're at. And she's all, you're going to get them killed. Stop doing that.
It's true. I had this moment, like, speaking of being a little bit out of it. When I was in college, I went to Mount Holyoke, and it's women's college, and it's in the liberal Northeast, college La La Land. Mm-hmm. And I went to Ireland, and I was going for my junior abroad in Trinity in Dublin, and I met this girl at a club, and we were scandalous at the club, and then we're leaving, and I'm hoping to bring her home because I'm a whore. And we're walking, and I took a hold of her hand, and she looked at me, and I'm like, what? She's like, oh, nobody's ever taken a hold of my hand before. And she was quite the saucy vixen in the bar. So I don't think it's because she's shy.
Holding hands was too much.
Apparently, it's, outward open affection of any sort is suspect and is not safe, even in the capital city. So that was my
you
moment.
stopped,
That was
so
my
you
moment. I was
went.
like, oh, fuck, I'm sorry. So, like, I dropped her hand and all.
Yeah, it's interesting because, yeah, same thing. I mean, I live in Portland, right? Super liberal little pocket of existence. And so I forget that not everyone everywhere has that same freedom of expression. So,
No, yeah, so that's definitely there. That's definitely there. And I've been in, you know, whenever you travel with your lover, you have to think about things too. So when we've been in Bible Belt, when we've been in, you know, certain environments, we kind of watch ourselves because we don't want to put a huge target on my forehead. Though I feel like joking, I'm like, Ilya jokes that I'm the one that if we're standing together, I'm the one that's going to be the tell. Whereas like she looks like a big old bull dagger dyke, and there's no pussyfooting around that one. I mean, she's got like really, really short hair and she's gorgeous eyes and whatnot, but there's no mistaking that she's a dyke.
yeah, Tara's the same way. Like, you're not going to look at her and think, oh, maybe. No, clearly, you're a lesbian. And she worries about me. So what is that about? I don't even get it.
It's very strange. I know that she's being ironic because when we first started dating, my hair was short, and now it's longer than most people ever do at my age. My hair actually goes down to my my pant line.
Wow.
Yeah. It's over 2 feet long.
Do you, like, wake up in the morning and just be all, like, cocooned in that? Like, is it just, like...
Amazingly, no. It doesn't, like, I'm not, you know who has that until she cut her hair? Winter Pennington. She had that going on. But no, my hair doesn't overwhelm me. It's thick and everything.
And it's overwhelming me, and we're, like, thousands of miles apart.
You just, like, conceptually, that really disturbs me. It's just so funny, and I don't even realize how long it is until, you know, summer, where I actually can feel... I have short sleeves on, so I can feel the hair brushing past my sleeve. Or obviously, I'm not going around in swimsuits right now, so I don't even feel it brushing past my back. But yeah,
you could totally be in a swimsuit here. If you were here, you could be.
It's true.
It's nice here.
Yeah. So I'm the towel. I'm the towel with the long hair. I'm the towel. I'm the big old dyke. You caught me.
You're the one that's gonna hold hands on the street. You're the one that's gonna give her away.
Yes. You know.
People could think that she's just fashion challenged.
But you with the long hair, you lesbians.
Oh my goodness.
So anyway, get us into that church. I want to be in East Texas.
Are you ready?
I'm ready. I'm ready.
Okay. Now that we've talked longer than
the reading's going to be.
Yeah, probably. All right. I'm going to take a deep breath. I'm going to move you closer to me. Okay?
That's kind of intimate.
I'm trying. No, I'm reading off of one computer and talking into another because I've got Skype on my laptop, on my MacBook. But I'm reading the excerpt is on like my giant, huge HP monitor.
Okay.
The monitor's bigger than my first TV. It's enormous. So, or maybe I'm just really that old. But whatever. Anyway, I'm going to start reading. Are you ready?
Yes.
So this is from Love and Devotion. What kept you? Emma whispered into Casey's ears, and Lonnie's eyes narrowed. She might well be married, but that didn't mean she'd tolerate Casey playing around with other women, especially not in the house of the Lord. Never mind trying to convince Lonnie that she and Emma were just friends. I got caught up at home. It was the closest to the truth that Casey was willing to provide at the moment. She might, at some point, give in and tell Emma all about Lonnie, but today wasn't that day. Your mama saw you, and Mrs. Truvall looks ready to skin you alive. I should tell people that Lonnie and Mrs. Truvall are the same person. Sorry. In segue. Emma held up her hymnal to share with Casey. She'd already turned to the appropriate selection. Not that either of them needed it. They'd been singing along to the same hymns forever and joined in right on cue. They sang about fire in the blood, a reoccurring theme that their pastor liked to impress upon the congregation. Blood, in all its crimson glory, purified, redeemed, and tasted good when enjoyed with a small wafer cracker. The last bit was Casey's own interpretation of communion, formulated when she was too little to partake, but old enough to know that her sister got a snack during church and she didn't. Casey sang along, hoping to appear pious even though her thoughts, and the ache between her legs, were far from that. The only fire in her blood was the leftover excitement from her encounter with Lonnie that morning. an unfulfilled promise with no hope of finding resolution anytime soon. The choir concluded their song, and the pastor took over, continuing the message of redeeming fire that could and would save her from eternal hellfire if only she'd spend her days walking with Jesus. Casey suspected the choir director and preacher of coordinating their efforts, but they both swore that the Lord spoke to them independently, resulting in the cooperative effect. As yet, the Lord hadn't graced Casey with a two-way conversation, but she also hadn't applied herself to his service. She supposed his silence was fair. "Come with me next weekend." Emma barely whispered the words, her mouth so close her breath tickled Casey's ear. Her frustrated libido didn't need this kind of encouragement in the middle of a sermon. Casey wished they were still singing. At least then she'd be able to tip the songbook up in front of her mouth when she responded. "Where?" "Austin." Emma had designs on moving away from Fairmont to a place where minds were a little more open and gossiping mouths a little more closed. She'd been on the receiving end one too many times to appreciate the local grapevine. Why didn't Emma look toward California, like LA, where anything went? Or San Francisco, where gay was practically required? Or maybe the Northwest, like Seattle or Portland, where weird was normal with its free-flowing stream of marijuana smoke. Or even east to New Orleans, where morality took a backseat to 24-hour, all-day, everyday debauchery. With the exception of her 4 years devoted to higher education at UNLV, Emma's dreams had never stretched past the Texas border, so Austin was her only real choice. Casey loved Austin, with its burgeoning music scene and influx of liberal idealism. "I'm not sure," she said. She and Lonnie were supposed to have plans. Maybe, if Lonnie could get away. "I'll let you know?" Emma gazed at her, her face tilted, eyes thoughtful. This wasn't the first time Casey had put her off, and Emma was obviously trying to decide if she should call Casey on it. Casey hoped she'd decide against it. The pastor banged his hand against the pulpit, his open palm a gunshot against the lectern. It ricocheted through the church, bouncing off stained glass, brick, and drywall with a force like thunder. Casey sat up straight, focusing her eyes front. He had her attention. She leaned forward slightly to see what he intended to do with it. "Make your commitment to God, right here, right now, on this Sunday morning." The choir started a low, encouraging hum behind him. "God is patient. He loves you, and he is ready for you to come home to him." People stood, arms raised in salutation to the Lord. Casey waffled on joining them. Power in the blood she wasn't too sure about, but their preacher was a convincing motivational speaker. And when his gaze briefly landed on her, she gathered herself to stand. Emma's hand on her arm stopped her, and the pastor's eyes moved to the next person. "What are you doing?" Emma said, her voice too loud to be considered a whisper. And she was right to question Casey. All too often, in many different settings, she got wrapped up in the excitement of the moment and forgot herself. The only thing she ever truly worshipped was the glory of a naked woman wrapped around her fingers. Emma was a good friend to remind her. "Nothing." Casey smiled at her mama. Even if she hadn't heard Emma across the church, she always had one eye on each of her children. By Casey's math, her mama had at least 3 eyes, and the count grew as her children started getting her grandchildren. She'd no doubt picked up on the commotion. "I'm okay now." Casey liked that she got swept away a little. Like all true romantics. She just wasn't sure how to explain her reaction to other people. Emma understood without Casey having to break it down. The preacher concluded... Oh my God, I just lost my place. I hit scroll and the whole thing went nuts.
Oh, pausing for station identification.
It leapt to another page. Okay, hold on. The preacher concluded his sermon and the choir resumed their singing. Casey and Emma stood to sing along. She was allowed to take to her feet now as the requisite Sunday morning church service drew to an end with the final song selection. No one would think she was declaring her devotion, so she raised her voice with gusto. She loved to sing. Her voice did amazing things without any encouragement from her. Her mama called it a gift. The choir director called it a squandered gift because she refused to join the choir and use it to exalt the glory of God. Casey would happily sing any song he wanted, so long as he didn't insist on placing her on the risers between her mother and Lonnie. And that's precisely where she'd end up, stacked between 2 women she wanted desperately to please. No doubt she'd forget herself, and in a moment of rapturous joy, she'd take liberties with Lonnie not meant to be taken in a church or in front of her mama. No, Casey belonged safely in the congregation, next to Emma, where she could sing to her heart's content without risk of town-wide scandal. With the service concluded, Casey ushered Emma out the side door before the pastor could set up sentry at the exits. She needed to move her car and couldn't afford the delay of after-church niceties. Emma lit a cigarette as soon as she cleared the landscaping. She didn't smoke often, only when stressed or intoxicated. Casey hadn't noticed signs of the latter during the service, so she reckoned church did what church always did to Emma, stressed her out. Emma was a woman out of time with her circumstances. She looked as though someone had clipped her out of a fashion magazine and dropped her into the middle of Texas. Not that Emma had any clue how devastatingly beautiful she was. At fast, she would say she was passable. In truth, she made most folks, including Casey, forget how to breathe. You worry too much. Casey paused to give Emma a brief hug. God forbid the day she couldn't spare enough time to comfort her best friend. Without the occasional intervening hug, Emma's smoking would rival a factory smokestack. I'm fine, Casey. Emma held her cigarette away from Casey's body, resulting in an awkward one-armed hug. Casey wanted to maintain contact for a little longer and caught Emma's free hand before she could retract it completely. She held it loosely as they crossed the parking lot. Emma stiffened slightly, but didn't pull away. She did, however, redouble her efforts to cloud the air. Casey wasn't at all sure what was bothering Emma, and since Emma wasn't forthcoming, Casey guessed. You're giving those guys too much credit. They don't know what happens in the afterlife any more than you do. Hell, they don't even know for sure that there is an afterlife. Casey leaned against the hood of her car, still holding Emma's hand. She wasn't in such a hurry to move the Accord now, since Emma was allowing physical contact in a potentially public place. The possible scandal of two girls in love in small-town Texas, true or not, kept Emma upright and contained. She didn't hold hands, and she didn't kiss. Hell, she didn't even allow her glance to linger too long in places the gentry deemed it shouldn't. Emma dated plenty, but did so privately to avoid speculation. Casey was being far too bold and forward, and she knew it. But this was Emma, her best friend. And if the town folks were still looking for a lesbian scandal from the two of them, then Casey couldn't help them. She had resigned herself to Emma only ever seeing her as a friend and nothing more. The rest of the town would eventually pick up on that. Besides, the parking lot was still empty of human traffic. The only other worshippers were no doubt caught up in the bottleneck. The other worshippers were no doubt caught up in the bottleneck of farewell wishes at the exit. Don't be crazy, Casey. I'm not worried about the eternal hereafter. I have enough here to keep me busy here on the mortal plane. Emma flicked her burned-down Camel menthol onto the blacktop and stomped it out while reaching for her pack. She slipped her hand out of Casey's and lit another cigarette. If you talked to me, maybe you wouldn't need to chain smoke half a pack in the church parking lot. Casey gestured at the fresh cigarette, Emma's lighter poised with the flame a breath away from the tobacco tub. She glared at Casey and touched the flame home while inhaling deeply. These calm my nerves. She blew a black stream up and away from Casey's face. She'd try it sometime. Keep you from making an ass out of yourself in the middle of church. Casey laughed. You worry enough about that for both of us. If you weren't there, I'd declare my devotion for the moment, and Mama would praise Jesus that I'd changed my wicked ways. And Casey would be okay with that. She didn't mind chasing her impulses wherever they led. Emma grunted and took another drag. Are you coming over for dinner? Emma cocked her head to the side, considering Casey's question, then countered with one of her own. Who'll be there besides family? Casey hesitated. Emma was smart. The less she mentioned Lonnie, the better. Still, best not let Emma catch her leaving stuff out either. The Truvalls. You should come. I'll meet up with you later. Emma surveyed the parking lot and spotted the choir director's wife at the same time as Casey. Best get going. She turned toward her own car. Emma, Casey paused, one leg inside the open driver's side door. I love you, okay? Emma took a breath, one not laden with blue-gray tobacco smoke, held it for a moment, then released it in a whoosh. Yeah, I know. She climbed inside her car, leaving Casey talking to no one. It was time to get home.
Is that the end of the story?
That's it. That's the end. I don't know how I should end that. I feel like this should be like a drummer or something.
Damn, I'm so remiss. I should have like sound effects and shit.
Or maybe like some trumpets or something. I don't know.
Dun, da, 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 da. It makes me think of like Briar Rose. Sleeping Beauty.
Yes.
And all like the entire kingdom falling asleep at the same time. That's awesome.
Anyway, that's my excerpt.
Yes, it is
They're
yours.
at church.
They're at church. She's thinking naughty thoughts, and she's totally missing the boat when it comes to her best friend.
She really is. She should just pick up on that. I I'm kind of a little bit in love with Emma. Don't tell anybody.
I won't. It's just between you and me and all the people listen to this episode.
My wife won't listen, so that's all that really matters.
Yes.
She won't know.
Well, your secret's safe with, well...
All of you?
All of us. We'll try not to mention it in mixed company.
Oh my God, how funny. Is that it? Do you want to talk about anything else? That often makes my voice hurt.
You're like, are we done? I think we're done.
We don't need to be done. We don't need to be done. I would like to be charming if I could. I'm just not pulling it off today. I'm too busy being late and acting like a spaz.
It's like, transitions. I'm terrible at them.
Yeah, subtlety is not my strong point.
No. Never
I'm more
for
like
me.
90-degree angles. I just sort of bash into the end when I get there.
Well, I have a couple of friends in general.
I hope you have more than a couple.
I have a couple of friends. No, I'm thinking about in particular these. I have 2 or 3 soft butch friends who are, especially when they were younger, they needed to be kind of like bonked on the head with the girl hitting on them because they just wouldn't pick up on it. And the joke is that they need like a 2x4 to kind of make them swift to the fact that somebody is hitting on them.
That's kind of KC. Like, yeah.
It's like, Casey, can you fucking get a clue? You tell her you love her. She has a moment. And then she gets in the car. I mean, how do you not see that you just like, it goes right through her when you tell her that you love her. Come on.
Do you remember, I don't know if you remember, there's a scene later in the book where she's in a bar in Austin and the bartender is like hitting on her and the bartender all has to be like, no, I'm not asking you to do this. I'm saying let's go in the back room and fuck. Like she's like has to get like super blatant for Casey to even get it. And then she's all like, yeah, no, not me. Like she just is dense, the girl.
I do remember that. Excuse me, I just want to shake you.
Poor thing.
One of the things that it's so funny because you had me read this a while ago. One of the things that I liked and I was sad about because you get attached to the characters, I get attached to the characters, and Casey and Emma would be sleeping in the same bed together, and they would always inevitably snuggle or wake up in a snuggled position. And then after the cat was out of the bag, they could no longer share those kind of intimacies because Emma wasn't going to take anything less than a full-on commitment.
Yeah. I don't know. I think it's just strange that Casey didn't get it anyway. Like, okay, you woke up with her on top of you. Like, that's not normal, but yeah, you've convinced yourself that it is. Okay.
Just because you've been doing that with your best friend for ages doesn't mean that's normal.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that some people really do enjoy a very physically intimate, affectionate relationship without it being sexual. I think that happens.
That does. Although,
but for lesbians, I mean, come on. If you wake up with a hot chick on top of you, do something with that. I'm just saying.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I've had those kind of, especially before I realized I liked chicks, I was allured by them, but I wasn't interested in dating them, at least at the time. And there's this one girl who we always used to dance really seductively with each other, and it was fun to play with each other because it wasn't a prelude to anything. It was just fun. So I totally get that, friend all over you kind of thing. But there was another woman. Both of these women are women from other countries, one Eastern European, one French. And the French woman, she loved to be adored, and she was so succulent and gorgeous and smelled great and brilliant, and so she loved to cuddle and snuggle and even, other stuff, and then it eventually evolved into somewhat of a relationship. But what I realized was she's just enamored with being adored. She's not really a lesbian. I don't think it matters who is doing the adoration. As long as you're like showing her the adulation, she's fine.
As long as it's happening. She just needs something there to happen.
He's like, aren't I fabulous and gorgeous? Yes, you're fabulous and gorgeous. Aren't I sexy? Yes, you're very, very sexy.
Well, less sexy the more I have to say it, though.
Oh, Lord. We were so funny. This was in college, just about my last year. The last few months of college. And I remember she and I were on the green and we were making out. And the funniest thing, then too, I had long hair, not as long as now. And she had blonde hair down to her hips. So you'd see us making out on the green. But basically you're just going to be seeing two really long flowing hair. You just see it hair
hanging out there. God, that's funny.
It was so funny. And then we'd part, and then this God bless her, baby Butch, is watching us and oh my God, what porn movie have I jumped into? What just happened here?
Yeah, she's thinking, just got lucky. Look what I just happened to find.
It's oh my God, two hot femmes. If they only knew. But anyway, speaking of, I could ramble on forever, but I think it's only fair to my guests to stop.
At some point, it's going to have to end, unfortunately.
Yes. So thank you again for braving being on my show again.
I am so sorry I was late. I'm thank you for having me. Thank you for waiting for me.
Absolutely.
Thank you for being you and fabulously about it.
Aww.
Fabulous about it. I added an extra Y. I turned it into an adverb. It didn't need to be one.
Sweet. And now I feel like going Wayne and Garth. Well, I'm not worthy. I'm not worthy. And that doesn't date me at all.
That's an awesome show. I think young people can enjoy it.
Exactly. It's and then just put on some Queen, and we could headbang. It'll be wonderful. Anyway, I'm going to unceremoniously close this conversation. Exactly. It'll be graceless. You smash into a brick wall.
Dude, story of my life. I'm down with it.
Okay, so that would be the end. Thank you for being on the show.
Thanks for inviting me. It was great.
Sweet.